Just 30 seconds. Can I show what I've been doing?
Okay.
Watch this.
Beautiful.
This is
This is a gift
Elon.
that you're going to send to Brazil?
That's right.
Yeah.
This is Elon and I's business. We built this together. We cut them and put them all together. So we had a guy this last week order 4.
Really?
So yeah,
How much?
$100. So it cost me about $30 in materials, and then and Elon is the business owner, so he makes the decisions. I'm his employee. So we have 2 made and 2 to go, and we deliver on Saturday. So there, you guys.
What does he what does he pay you per hour?
Nothing.
Employee or slave?
Right. Yeah, we need to renegotiate our contract here, man. So so this business becomes a little more realistic, you know what I mean? He's making bank these days, so.
I love your heart.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Good heart.
Good job.
All right, so now we go.
Ok. Bom dia a todos. Eu quero falar hoje algo que eu achei importante a gente ter trabalhado no último Aljava presencial aqui. O Adriano esteve aqui comigo e provavelmente vai rever tudo que ele ouviu aqui presencialmente, né, Adriano?
I would like to share with you a topic that was discussed with the group of pastors here. Adriano attended, and it's going to be a good opportunity to review this topic.
Uma das coisas que eu falei nesse último sábado, que nós tivemos a reunião presencial, é que eu percebo que o Senhor tem me levado a revisar alguns pontos importantes que Ele me conduziu em alguns processos nos últimos 5 anos.
One of the things that I mentioned is that the Lord has been kind of guiding me through a review of some very important topics that He's taught me in the last 5 years.
Quando eu falei sobre entradas e saídas, você saber entrar e saber sair, era um ponto que o Senhor já tinha me falado há muito tempo atrás, e Ele começou a revisar isso e me disse da importância de não perder isso de vista.
When we discussed entering and exiting properly situations in life, that was also one of the topics that the Lord had already that the Lord brought back to my life as part of this review process that He's doing.
Quando eu falo também de celebração, foi algo que o Senhor me chamou a atenção de novo num processo que startou por causa de uma situação de humilhação, e o Senhor foi me lembrando de novo sobre o poder pedagógico da humilhação, sobre celebrar no deserto.
And when we discussed celebration, that was also another topic that the Lord had already spoken to me in the past, but kind of brought back as part of lessons learning, times of humiliation, and how to celebrate even when you feel like you are in the desert.
E todas essas coisas, elas vão convergindo, e é interessante que no último mês tem sido sempre assim, sempre o Senhor me recordando de alguns pontos importantes.
And these things kind of, they're converging at this point in time, and it's been like this in this last month, the Lord kind of reminding me of things and bringing everything to this conversion point, and through reminding me of these topics.
Por exemplo, ontem eu fui convidado para dar uma aula para o Mevan Europa, é o ministério do Mevan, do apóstolo Zemini na Europa. E o tema que eles me sugeriram era celebração, generosidade e honra, que são coisas que eu estou falando. Então, assim, eu vejo que Deus de fato está se movendo, me fazendo estabelecer bem claro tudo que ele me ensinou ao longo dos últimos anos, né?
Yesterday, I had been invited to speak to a group for a ministry in Brazil that has representation in Europe. So I met to speak to this group from Europe, and the topic that they had suggested was celebration and generosity, and kind of like confirming once again the season in my life and what the Lord is speaking to me.
E dentro de todas essas coisas que foram convergindo, o que eu falei sábado no Aljava presencial é um ponto extremamente importante, principalmente para pastores e líderes.
And again, what was discussed on Saturday is a very important topic, not only for pastors, but also to leaders.
O nome da palavra que eu dei, para que a gente tenha um alvo por onde a gente vai percorrer, é sobre o poder da ausência.
And the topic was the power of the absence.
Eu queria que nós pudéssemos ler juntos um texto que está em Mateus 25, do 14 ao 19.
We're going to read together a text that is found in Matthew 14:19. Just 1 second here, guys. Okay. Then he ordered the crowds to sit down on the grass. And taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and said a blessing. Then he broke the loaves and gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. Até o versículo...
Mateus 25, do 14 ao 19.
Good morning, Adriano.
Good morning, Adriano.
Matthew 25, everybody, not 14. It's 25 from 14 to 19. Mr. Brenton, can you type that in for me, please? Here we go. 25, 19 to 25. Okay. Here we go again, guys. Sorry. Now, after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here I have made 5 talents more. His master said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he also, who had the 2 talents, came forward, saying, Master, you delivered me 2 talents. Here, I have made 2 talents more. His master said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also, who had received the 1 talent, came forward saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you didn't sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, you have what is yours.
Ok. Nessa parábola, ela é sempre tratada pela perspectiva dos talentos, de você administrar talentos, mas existe um princípio embutido nela muito importante.
When we hear this or read this scripture, we are always taught about the administration of talents. But there is a principle here under the surface that I want to discuss with you.
Quem é o Senhor que representa essa parábola, que vem até a terra, distribui, né, talentos e depois se retira, se ausenta, né? Isso é uma analogia de Cristo e sua igreja.
Who is this master who comes to the land and he distributes talents and then he removes himself from the picture for a while? This is a representation of Christ.
Como nós podemos medir a honra e a fidelidade de alguém? É sempre na ausência.
How can we measure the level of honor and faithfulness of someone? It is always in this person's absence.
As piores ações, as piores negações, as piores traições não acontecem na nossa presença. Se você pegar a história de Judas, em todo o tempo que ele teve junto de Jesus, ele não cometeu nenhum equívoco. A traição foi cometida na ausência. É porque na ausência que nós provamos o nosso nível de lealdade.
If you notice, absence creates an opportunity for betrayal. Let's think about Judah, for instance. He maintained the appearance of a good disciple in the presence of Jesus, but there was something happening when he was not there. So there's always this place where there is room for betrayal when somebody is absent.
Vamos olhar isso para todas as perspectivas que nós possamos estar ligados hoje. Seja como pai natural dos nossos filhos, seja como líder de um departamento numa empresa, seja como responsável em qualquer área que você atue, né? A nossa autoridade, o nosso legado, a eficácia daquilo que nós estamos construindo precisa sempre ser construído a partir da ótica da ausência.
Let's bring this to the context of our lives and make it applicable to us here. Whether it is at home with your children or in your department as you supervise somebody, or in any level, if you are teaching and you are dealing with the students, at every level, there's always this opportunity for dishonor and betrayal if in the absence of when you are not present in the context of that dynamic or that relationship.
O problema é que nós somos contagiados por uma sociedade que está extremamente vaidosa e a gente confunde sucesso com notoriedade.
We we live in a society that is contaminated with the pursuit of fame and vanity drives it's a behavior driver in many circumstances.
E a gente acaba confundindo sucesso com notoriedade.
And we confuse success with notoriety.
Porque tudo que nós fazemos a partir de uma mente adâmica, aonde nós temos que estar presente, aonde nós temos que colher os louros da fama.
Mm-hmm. Because everything we do is influenced by our Adamic nature, where we have this need for recognition. There's always this pursuit for notoriety.
Tem um padre aqui de Taubaté, ele mora aqui em Taubaté, mas ele é conhecido hoje nacionalmente. É um padre faz muito sucesso entre os artistas, tal. E ele é um cara muito inteligente, é o padre Fábio de Mello. E ele escreveu um texto ontem falando sobre isso, eu até repostei aqui nas minhas redes sociais. Eu queria ler e vou pedir para você repetir passo a passo, Adriano, para que você não se perca aqui no conceito.
Tá. There's a Catholic priest in our city in Brazil. He is very well known in the artistic among the celebrities in Brazil. He's known all over Brazil. And yesterday he posted something that I reposted, and I would like to read it to you.
Olha só o que ele fala. A equiparação entre sucesso e notoriedade é um dos maiores erros conceituais do nosso tempo.
To compare notoriety and success is one of the greatest mistakes of our days.
Pois evidencia os ruidosos, né, os barulhentos em detrimento dos discretos.
Because it gives brings to the spotlight those who make noise as compared to those who have a more subtle and quiet behavior.
Ocorre que as pessoas em harmonia com o sucesso não costumam fazer barulho.
The fact is that those who are in harmony with success, they don't usually cause too much noise.
E isso é uma realidade, porque todo pai, todo edificador que edifica a partir da mente de Cristo, ele edifica para que a obra prossiga na sua ausência, não para si mesmo.
And it's true because that every father, every leader who edifies with a legacy in mind, he is building for those who are coming next, not to or for himself.
Por que o ministério de Jesus foi tão curto? Nós estamos falando do Filho de Deus que transformou a história e ele teve um ministério de 3 anos.
Why was Jesus' ministry so short? We're talking about the very Son of God, and his ministry only lasted for 3 years.
Porque Jesus ele era muito focado em obedecer o envio do seu Pai. Ele não ficou inventando moda, ele veio para cumprir o que o seu Pai pediu. E ele tinha 2 focos nesse cumprimento: chegar até a cruz e formar filhos, formar pessoas.
And it is because Jesus was very focused in the mission that was given to him by the Father. He had 2 goals during that time. One was to arrive to the cross, and the second one was to form individuals in the process.
Ele não só cumpriu o motivo da sua ausência, o alvo, ele não só cumpriu o motivo do seu envio, né, o alvo de ir à cruz, mas ele formou pessoas, né? Ele conseguiu preparar pessoas simples, elas não foram capacitadas no entendimento, mas no mesmo espírito, para que pudessem dar sequência àquilo que ele estava iniciando, que era a manifestação do reino de Deus na terra.
And his focus was on people. He invested his time in forming people so that they could give continuation to the manifestation of the kingdom of God on earth.
Então nós precisamos aprender alguns pontos aqui, eu acho que são importantes. Primeiro, paternidade está diretamente ligado à emancipação.
So we need to understand some very important points. And the first one is that paternity has to do with emancipation.
Pais que não preparam filhos, não constroem legados.
Fathers who are not preparing their children, they do not build legacy.
As suas vidas e tudo que foi edificado vai ser encerrado neles mesmos.
Everything that they build, everything that they create will end when at the end of their lives, at the end of their time.
Então, por isso que tudo que a gente edifica só pode ser provado na nossa ausência.
That's why everything that we build can only be tested and proved in our absence.
E a gente observa isso de maneira muito clara na relação pai e filho. Existem filhos que são incríveis na frente dos seus pais, mas são um terror quando seus pais não estão vendo.
And we see that evidenced in a relationship father and son, or father and daughter, where the children are wonderful kids when the parent is present, but you remove the parents from the situation and their behavior deteriorates.
E isso é muito triste, né? Eu vejo realidade hoje. A gente estava fazendo uma reunião com os líderes do departamento de adolescentes da igreja e quantos problemas com adolescentes que você vai contar a história para os pais não acreditam, ficam até bravos com a gente, falando, não, meu filho é incrível. E os filhos estão usando droga, meninas de 13 anos que já estão iniciadas na sua vida sexual e os pais não acreditam, porque eles construíram, eles formaram filhos para que possam apresentar uma imagem que os seus pais querem ter, mas que não estão preparados para lidar com a verdade. E longe dos seus pais, eles são uma mentira, eles são uma verdadeiro engano. E muitos deles, filhos de amigos que eu conheço. É triste de você ver essa realidade, porque os pais não preparam um caminho para que os filhos vivam de verdade, para que possam se abrir, para que possam construir algo.
And I see this in youth ministry. We in a meeting recently, we were talking about the fact that this young people, they come to us and they open up, and many times when you bring the parents into a situation, they are shocked to find the truth and the reality about their children, and they say, I can't believe this. It can't be possible that my son or my daughter behaves this way. But the fact is that we have 13-year-old girls who are sexually active in so many cases and situations where the parents just can't believe the behavior that their children actually have in their absence. And that is because they were not prepared to live that life of honor in the absence of the parents.
Tem algo, a vida de Paulo sempre me impressiona muito, né? E é interessante quando Paulo chega ao final da sua vida e ele fala com tanta convicção que ele estava pronto para partir. O que leva a Paulo a falar assim, olha, eu acabei a carreira, eu combati o bom combate, eu guardei a fé. O que dá tanta convicção para ele? O que fazia com que ele olhasse para trás e falasse assim, fui bem sucedido naquilo que o Senhor me confiou, estou pronto para ir? Para onde Paulo está olhando quando ele diz essa frase?
So we need to think about Paul and the fact that he is so confident in affirming that he finished well his race. What is the marker or the markers or the reference that Paul is using when he is looking at his legacy and he says, I've done this well, I'm coming to the conclusion of this race and I feel good about it? What are these markers that he's using as a reference along his life and ministry?
Essa frase tão conhecida de Paulo, né? terminei a minha carreira, combati o bom combate, guardei a fé, ela é dita em qual contexto?
This very well-known phrase or affirmation from Paul that he finished the race, that he's done it well, and in the process he kept his faith. What is the context of that scripture?
Quando Paulo fala isso, não é uma carta que ele está escrevendo a uma igreja, não é a igreja de Éfeso, não é a igreja de Tessalônica. Isso aqui é uma carta, é uma conversa de Paulo com seu filho, Timóteo.
The context is not Paul talking to a group of people. He's not writing a letter to the church. He's writing a letter to his child, to his son, Timothy.
Vamos ler então, Adriano, 2 Timóteo. Presta atenção, por favor, para você não errar de novo, que uma vez eu permito, mas 2 vezes na mesma manhã. 2 Timóteo.
You have permission to make a mistake only once, not twice in the mornings. So please pay attention. 2 Timothy.
2 Timóteo 4, do 3 ao 9.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do, guys, Spokane guys. We're going to call Chris at 6 a.m., 6 a.m., one of these days, and we will speak to him and have him translate, okay? We'll see how his brain is functioning at 6
Guys, you suggest this time and this day. I'm open for you. And you can choose another date in another time.
Yeah, we can do it 1 o'clock in the morning. It's like 8 p.m. here would be perfect. Okay, so here we go. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse, Darren, can you write that down, please?
Verse 3 to 9.
3 to 9. So here we go, everybody. I am highlighting here. There. Okay. For the time is coming when people will not endure sound teaching, but having itching ears, they will accumulate for themselves teachers to suit their own passions, and will turn away from listening to the truth and wander off into myths. As for you, always be sober-minded, endure suffering, do the work of an evangelist, fulfill your ministry. For I am already being poured out as a drink offering, and the time of my departure has come. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Henceforth, there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me, but also to all who have loved his appearing. Do your best to come to me soon.
É lindo você observar que quando Paulo está falando essa frase, ele está olhando na perspectiva de que ele tem um filho maduro e preparado para dar sequência em tudo aquilo que Deus fez na vida dele.
It is beautiful to see that when Paul is speaking this, that he's talking in the context of having a son that has reached a level of maturity to give continuation to his ministry.
Então ele olha para Timóteo e começa a dar várias instruções, e daí, quando ele está dando as instruções a Timóteo, ele fala assim: combati o bom combate, acabei a carreira e guardar a fé. Ou seja, eu formei pessoas no mesmo espírito para que na minha ausência aquilo que o Senhor fez possa ter sequência.
And he brings this in the context of finishing well, and finishing well because he's been able to form people with the same mind who share the same spirit, who are able to stand by themselves and give continuation to the ministry of Christ.
É muito interessante de se observar que o ministério de Jesus, ele introduz o novo pacto.
And it's interesting to observe that the ministry of Christ introduces the new covenant.
E o novo pacto, ele tem algo que é muito específico, que ele é uma realidade no espírito.
And the new covenant has something very specific, which is this reality in the spirit.
Então, quando tem um momento que Jesus vai se ausentar, e ele fala isso para os seus filhos espirituais, ele fala assim, eu não vos deixarei órfãos.
And Jesus, when he is after building this relationship and this legacy, he is preparing to leave his disciples, he turns to them and he said, listen, I'm not gonna leave you orphan.
Ele não fala não vos deixarei sós. Ele fala não vos deixarei órfãos.
He doesn't say, I won't leave you alone. I won't leave you by yourselves. He specifically says, I'm not going to leave you orphan.
Porque um filho, ainda que experimente a ausência do pai, ele nunca vai estar sozinho, porque a realidade do novo pacto é uma realidade no espírito.
And it is because a son, even if he is absent from the presence of the father, he doesn't experience a sense of abandonment as an orphan would, because the reality of the new covenant is a reality in the spirit.
Então Jesus está falando o seguinte, vocês podem experimentar uma ausência física, mas vocês nunca ficarão sem uma presença no espírito.
So what Jesus is saying is, you may experience the physical absence of my presence, but you will never experience orphanhood in the spirit.
Por isso que na sequência do texto, João capítulo 14, versículo 26, ele explica como isso aconteceria. Ele fala assim, aquele Consolador, o Espírito Santo que o Pai enviará no meu nome, ele vos ensinará todas as coisas e vos fará lembrar de tudo que vos tenho dito.
And that's why in the context of that conversation, John, Jesus is saying, but the helper, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, he will teach you all things and bring to your remembrance all that I have said to you. And that is John 14, 26 and on.
Então, o que Jesus está falando? Que no novo pacto, o Espírito enviado pelo Pai é que faz lembrar todos os ensinamentos de um pai para um filho.
And what Jesus is saying is that in the new covenant, that which will bring to mind all the teachings from the Father to the Son is the Holy Spirit.
E hoje nós precisamos ter essa consciência, porque senão nós começamos a nos frustrar, inclusive com paternidade espiritual, porque a gente não entende a ausência. A gente não entende que é uma realidade no espírito.
And we need to understand this because if we don't grasp this concept, there could be the sense of frustration in the relationship with your spiritual father, because there may be this physical absence, but the reality of this relationship is a spiritual relationship.
Eu vejo isso muito forte na figura do meu pai espiritual, do apóstolo L, de como ele conseguiu, ao longo dos últimos anos, formar filhos maduros, que faz com que a obra que a igreja avance sem a presença dele.
And I see this very strongly in the life and ministry of my spiritual father, Apostle Wesley, because we see that he's been able over the years to form mature leaders that are able to give continuation to the ministry even in his absence.
E quando eu falo de filhos, eu não estou falando de eu mais dois, não. Nós temos aí hoje 100 ministros na casa. Dos 100 ministros, eu acho que a gente poderia confiar integralmente em pelo menos 50 que estão maduros para conduzir as coisas, ou seja, não fica pesado para ninguém, porque ele formou homens e mulheres com a mesma cultura, com o mesmo pensamento, com o mesmo espírito, que sabem exatamente para onde nós estamos indo.
And when I talk about spiritual children, I'm not talking about 2 or 3. I'm talking about just about 100 ministers that we have in this house, where I could say probably 50% of them have the maturity and the level of confidence to walk by themselves because of how they've been invested, that in the absence of leadership, any one of them could take the responsibilities and give continuation to this ministry.
Durante a pandemia, ele pôde ficar 5 meses em casa, né, e que a igreja não sentiu, em termos de ter sido conduzido, ter sido dado sequência em tudo que vinha sido feito, porque tinham pessoas de confiança para fazer isso, tinham filhos preparados para isso.
And from the beginning of the pandemic, he had to step away from being physically involved with the day-to-day activities of our house, our church, for 5 months. And during this 5 months, his absence was not felt in the day-to-day operations of the ministry, because he had mature, well-formed children, spiritual children and leaders who step up and took on the responsibilities.
Isso faz com que o ministério do apóstolo L seja um ministério efetivo, bem-sucedido, ainda que não tenha notoriedade ou visibilidade.
This makes so that his ministry is a successful ministry because it's efficient and it works well, even if it doesn't have the notoriety and makes all the noise that other ministries.
O ministério, a casa que ele edificou não está concentrada nele ou em uma pessoa. Não depende de uma pessoa, é um corpo em movimento.
The house that he built doesn't depend on him, doesn't depend on one person. It's the foundation is a living foundation that is moving because of the leaders that he formed.
E quando eu estou falando de uma casa ministerial, você pode trazer isso para a tua família. Os teus filhos são completamente dependentes de você, tua esposa é completamente dependente de você, você prepara eles para a tua ausência, ou no caso de qualquer situação que ocorra com você, eles ficam completamente perdidos na vida.
And let's bring this to your personal situation then. We're talking about this house in the context of a church and ministry, but bring this reality to your own home. Are you preparing your children? Are you equipping your wife so that in your absence, your house is going to continue to run, your home will continue to run when you are not able to be there providing the support that you do? Are they capable of functioning in your absence?
Quando o Senhor me começou a recordar dessa passagem, né, que foi até no início da pandemia, eu sentei com a Leila e fiz questão de instruir ela com todas as movimentações financeiras, como estavam as situações da empresa. Ela sabe hoje de tudo, né, de que acontece na minha vida, porque ela precisa saber se mover na minha ausência.
Mhm. When the pandemic started, I was reminded of this reality. So I sat down with Layla and went over everything that is going on in our lives, our finances, the situation with the business, the legal standing, the financial standing. Every detail was shared and discussed with her. She was brought to full understanding of everything so that she can have the knowledge and function in my absence.
Tem esposas que não sabem quanto seu marido ganha.
There are wives who are unaware of how much their husbands make.
Existem ministérios que, quando seus líderes vierem a falecer, eles acabam no dia seguinte, porque não foram. Todo o ministério gira em função da figura de uma pessoa.
There are ministries today that will come to a halt if the current leader dies. If he dies today, it's the end of the ministry because there is nobody else prepared to give continuation to the work that has been done.
Nós precisamos construir uma vida preparada para que o sucesso aconteça no nosso anonimato.
We need to build a life that in such a way that success happens in our absence.
Se eu fizer uma pergunta para vocês bem simples assim, não de uma resposta teológica ou profunda, a primeira frase que te vem à mente, quem foi Mardoqueu na Bíblia?
Let me ask you a question, and I'm not looking for a theological explanation of who this person is. But if I ask you, who's Mardocheo? Can you tell me very succinctly and quickly who this guy is in the Bible? Mardocheo. Who is Mardocheo?
Para que a gente possa otimizar o tempo, eu sei que a primeira expressão que vem na mente de todo mundo quando se faz essa pergunta foi o tio de Esther.
And just for the sake of time, I know that Keith is getting ready here to respond. Go, Keith, say it.
I was going to say Mordecai.
Mordecai, that's right. Look at that. So Mardocheo is Portuguese. It's Mordecai. Yes, who is he?
The uncle of Queen Esther.
Exactly.
Look at that. See, a non-theological answer accompanied by a lesson on the pronunciation of the guy's name. There you go.
100% das pessoas para quem eu faço essa pergunta, onde eu já falei sobre Mardoqueu, todos, 100%, respondem o tio de Esther.
100% of the time when I ask who this guy is, they say he is the uncle of Esther.
O que você acha de ser lembrado não pelo teu nome, mas em função da vida do teu filho?
What about that concept of being remembered, not by your name, but in function of the fact that you were the father of your son?
Vocês imaginam, daqui uns anos eu não estou mais aqui, fui para com o Senhor, e de repente perguntam assim para alguém, quem foi Cristiano Miranda? E alguém responde, foi o pai do Adriano Rente.
And the idea is kind of like this. In a few years down the road, let's say that I'm no longer here, I'm in heaven with Jesus, and somebody will mention my name, and at the mention of my name, what they know is that I was the father of Adriano Rente.
Isso expressa o quê? Quem é mais importante? O Cristiano ou o Adriano?
This expresses something interesting. Who is the priority? Who is the most important here? Is it Cristiano or Adriano?
Na verdade, não tem o mais importante. Existe um processo natural diante de Deus de pais que sabem diminuir para que seus filhos cresçam.
There is no most important person here. But what you notice is it's a godly process where one person disappears so that the other one appears.
Mardoqueu, ele teve uma função, ou Mordecai, que também fala em português, teve uma função importante, mas anônima. Ele formou Esther como uma filha. Ele deu uma palavra de destino. Ele foi, na verdade, o responsável pela preservação do povo judeu, mas ele não teve a visibilidade ou a notoriedade. Ele fez isso em silêncio, cuidando bem daquilo que foi confiado a ele. Uma filha, não uma multidão de filhos. Uma filha que ele cuidou bem foi suficiente para produzir livramento aos judeus.
Mordecai's legacy is in the fact that he formed one daughter, that he invested his life in raising her, and at a very specific time, he presented her with a challenge that saved an entire nation. The fact is that it was his action that led to the salvation of entire nation, but that becomes unimportant. The fact is that he invested himself not in the lives of a multitude of people, but he invested his life in obedience by forming and leading and releasing and launching his daughter Esther.
A verdade é uma incoerência no que aprendemos naquilo que se diz ser relevante para o Senhor. Porque a relevância não vem no fato de você ser conhecido, mas de você ser efetivo. Nós somos relevantes quando somos efetivos naquilo que o Senhor nos confiou.
That presents a lack of coherence in how we understand how we view success. Because the important factor here and the goal is efficiency and not success as it is taught and we are led to believe, where you stand out. That is not the goal. The goal is efficiency, not being brought to the light and becoming being in evidence.
A incoerência do que nós ensinamos é porque Cristo veio ao mundo para se doar, para se dar. E nós ensinamos um evangelho que você vem a Cristo para receber. E aí existe um choque, porque se nós viemos a Cristo, nós viemos para experimentar a mesma cultura dele. O que deve haver em nós é uma disposição de doação, e não só mensurar relacionamentos a partir daquilo que eu posso receber.
The incoherence is in the fact that Christ came to serve. He came to give. And when we come to Christ, we come with this understanding that we are coming to receive. But the fact is that we need to be formed to fall in line with the vision and the culture of Christ, which is to become one that serves like Christ was served. Like Christ came to serve.
Quando nós temos problemas e raízes de carência ou rejeição, nós queremos gerar nas pessoas uma dependência de nós. Mas quando nós somos livres disso em Cristo, nós nos relacionamos com as pessoas para que elas saibam avançar sem a gente, sem que se dependam de nós, mas conduzimos as pessoas a uma dependência de Cristo, incluindo a nossa própria família.
When we go through life,
através das nossas carências, né, e rejeições, nós nos relacionamos gerando dependência das pessoas por nós, né?
Exactly. Because of our need and the hurt and the wounds in our own souls, we go through life with this where the outcome of our work creates a dependency of others on us, and it becomes a natural thing as we go through life that we build relationships that are dependent on us. And this is really the fruit of a soul that that needs healing, because the life of Christ in us should generate exactly the opposite. It should generate children that that give life and bring healing and release others to walk on their own without the dependence on us.
Yeah. Então, uma última frase para que a gente possa finalizar essa manhã. Tudo que nós estamos edificando tem que prosseguir sem a nossa presença. Caso contrário, nós não estamos edificando nada no reino de Deus. Nós estamos edificando uma obra pessoal. Vou repetir. Tudo que nós edificamos tem que prosseguir sem... Eu vou falar em terceira pessoa. Tudo que você está edificando tem que prosseguir sem você. Caso contrário, você não está edificando o reino, mas uma obra pessoal.
And so I want to finish with this thought to finalize our time this morning. That everything that you build, you need to build so that it has a continuation without your presence. Otherwise, what you're building is earthly and not heavenly. It's not built on a spiritual foundation, but on a personal, humanistic foundation.
Amen.
Com isso, nós finalizamos essa manhã e eu tenho 5 minutos. A Leila veio até me falar aqui, eu tinha um compromisso hoje para meio-dia e não queria desmarcar com vocês. Mas eu tenho ainda, se você quiser fazer como nas outras vezes que eu precisei sair, você continuar, Adriano, eu ainda tenho 5 minutinhos aqui, mas esse era a base do que a gente precisava tratar nessa manhã.
Tá. Você vai desconectar o Zoom?
Eu posso deixar ligado para você.
Deixa, porque daí fica gravado e se alguma coisa aparecer para você lidar mais tarde, você responde.
Não tem problema nenhum. Eu deixo ligado.
Tá. So guys, Chris has a commitment in about 5 minutes. He didn't want to cancel our meeting this morning, but he's going to have to run. I know that Keith usually leaves around 7. Darren has probably a few more minutes. But what we would like to do is to just continue with this conversation. Chris is going to step out. He will continue recording. And then if there's anything that he needs to address later, he will review the video and chat with us. With that said, Chris, thank you for this time. Obrigado, querido. Muito boa palavra nessa manhã. And Keith, do you want to say something?
No, just thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Love you, brother.
Yeah. And I would like then to open to any one of you who want to share a thought or propose a question or share something from whatever the Lord's speaking to you this morning on this subject. Adriano, se Deus está falando no teu coração alguma coisa ou você quer compartilhar algo com a gente, manda bala, irmão.
I'm okay. Learning. Thanks.
You're welcome. Darren.
It's very applicable. Like, obviously what I do is, trying to teach kids to be lifelong learners, to be, thinkers for themselves.
Como professor, a minha tarefa é não só ensinar as crianças, mas prepará-los para que eles sejam, para que eles aprendam e mantenham essa atitude de aprendizado a vida toda.
But whether it's, a professional role or a personal role, it's so easy for me to be swept into it and to think that, my person, my image is made by what I do and what,
E é muito fácil para mim me encontrar naquela posição onde a minha identidade está relacionada com a minha função.
And most of us have, found out, like when you get something taken away from you, or something happens, lose a job, or you have an upset in your finances or something, you realize that we're not in control.
E muitas vezes nós experimentamos a realidade de que nós não estamos em controle das situações das nossas vidas, ou mesmo do que somos, quando nos encontramos em situações de perda financeira ou de trabalho, ou qualquer que seja.
So it's kind of like the idea of living with an open hand. Or I coached with a guy, soccer, and he said to our team, he said, the players haven't figured it out yet, that if they're not here, we're okay, but the coaches haven't figured out that if coaches aren't here, the team's still here. So.
Eu trabalho treinando futebol. A gente tem essa realidade, né? Eu conversava com um outro treinador que trabalha comigo que na nossa ausência o time ainda está presente, e como criar essa mentalidade de que eles deem continuidade quando nós não podemos estar presentes.
So yeah, but that's very interesting to think about leaving a legacy, communicating with my wife about our finances, and making sure that I'm preparing people with that in mind, that I should make it so that somebody could just jump in and take over my role.
Uhum.
So,
e é interessante trazer esse ensinamento hoje de manhã para a realidade da casa, né? De estar comunicando de uma forma, principalmente com a minha esposa, de que na minha ausência as coisas continuem a fluir de maneira que funcione para todo mundo bem.
Yeah, good stuff to think about.
Muito boa palavra para a gente estar meditando.
Amém. Irmãos, então eu vou deixar vocês seguirem aqui e vou deixar gravado a hora que vocês finalizarem. Depois eu venho, edito aqui e coloco para a gente, tá bom?
Beleza.
Obrigado.
So Chris is stepping out. He will leave it running, and he will edit and post it for us later. Kip, I think you were locked and loaded. So give it to us.
Well, it affirms that beckoning on me with, I've got a launching the teen year curriculum for my boy. And it affirms just the need to get equipped with this. I've had a beckoning on me to not only be equipped with this curriculum for Cole, but for even the boys that I lead at Awana and at East Point.
É uma confirmação para mim de um trabalho que está sendo feito não somente em casa com meu filho, mas também com um grupo de jovens que eu ensino na nossa igreja, no nosso ministério.
I've been hesitant for whatever reason, many excuses, I'm sure, to really embrace it or jump into it. I got the first module completed or ready, but have been lax on the rest.
Eu tenho trabalhado num currículo que para preparar esse grupo para funcionar na minha ausência, e eu tenho tido um pouco de receio, um pouco de não tenho dado prioridade para isso, mas essa conversa de manhã me mostra que realmente eu preciso dar prioridade para poder colocar isso em movimento. Adriano.
Adriano, como eu já assisti essa aula e você vai ter que ficar traduzindo, eu acho que eu vou atrapalhar vocês. Aí vocês podem falar em inglês, pode ser?
Pode, cara. Tranquilo. Pode ser.
Bye bye, guys.
Okay.
Love you. Love you all.
Thank you,
Bye.
Adriano. Have a great week, man. Love you.
Obrigado,
Hey,
amigos.
Kip,
Yeah.
let me ask you a question. I think Darren is in that place right now in his life, and I think you more than anything. Darren is 7:05. What's your deadline here? What time are you stepping out?
Oh, let's say 20 after.
Okay. So Kip, you are further along than I think most of the guys in this group here in terms of raising children. Darren is in a place right now where he has an adult child, adult daughter. As you look back in light of this message this morning, and Darren, and you two can answer, and your answer will help all of us who are coming behind you. What does this tell you? What does it speak to you? Is it a light you've had as a Christian man, raising your family and raising the children that you already launched? Like, I'm preparing this person to be without me. You know, how much of that was present? How much was not? What can be done afterwards when your kids are already adults and you feel like you haven't prepared them? How do you live with that? Talk to me about it. Let's start with Kip, and then we move to Darren.
Is that a two-part question?
You can make a two-part question if you want.
I think I've got the first part. Maybe I've got, so one, it's, restate it again, please.
As a parent who is kind of further along than most of us here, and have already launched some of your kids into adulthood, how do you gauge your preparing of your children to function as adults without you? And I ask this not to expose you, but to learn from your mistakes and in your rights as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Kip, go ahead.
I can, I wrote this down so I can break it up into pieces.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of different thoughts, or experiences or emotions. I've always had the desire, to, if I use a formal term, to launch my children, to equip and to train and to launch. And it's also been a desire for a connectedness with them, which, yeah. Between for my first two that have launched, I would say I haven't done a very good job of doing that, of connecting with them.
And why was that? Why do you think it is?
Not excuses, but just statements of fact. I was busy raising a life or starting out and getting equipped for life and making money and business and to raise a family. And and then also having my own brokenness or emptiness that I pursue, or fulfillments that I'm pursuing to let me summarize it this way. As Adriana was talking earlier, here's a comment I wrote: the Adamic nature leads us to the instability of our true identity, leading us to continuously strive for a connection, healthy and unhealthy. So when Adam sinned, that broke the connection, or created a want in us, a continual want, a continual need, the hollow or the vacuum for us to fill, and the desire to go back to or be connected with God. And I forgot my point.
So you're referring back to when we said that because of our brokenness, we naturally don't have the ability to build for independence, but we kind of like selfishly use those relationships so that we feel good about ourselves.
Oh yeah, like, or even working, I'm striving at work, or I'm striving for success, trying to make money and provide a life, and get lost in that. So and lose focus.
Yeah.
So that, I think that's probably a good summary for feelings of failure, or for accepting feelings of failure, or identifying them.
So Kip, I if you don't mind, can you hold that thought? Because I know you have more there, but Darren has to go in about 9 minutes, and I wanted to kind of get him on the record, and then we can continue here, and he can review it later. Darren, what about you?
Well, I think Kip brought up a really good point about the relationships. Constantly building, working on those relationships, and I think for me, I have to start from there, and then kind of work around. I've tried to be sequential about that. Meeting with my kids, dates, we call them dates, but sometimes they're just hanging out, but I do try to make it like a date where we're going out, we're getting some coffee or tea or some kind of treat, and we're hanging out. But then I've learned to be a little bit more goal or planning oriented, and then write down set questions that I ask them, hopefully to lead them along, not only in in the conversation and in the relationship, but to lead them along, to get them to talk, to get them to think about the future and themselves, especially as they get older, because it's not working a lot of times for me to do what I was known for, and I'm still known for, is it's not working for me to kind of teach them or to lecture them. So yeah.
So are you tying that to the last week when we were talking about switching from being a teacher parent to a loving parent? Are you connecting it with last week?
I suppose I wasn't thinking in context. I was just thinking about like using those times, those relationships, those questions, those moments to get them to think. I could give specific examples, but the thing is, that allows God to speak to them. That allows the Spirit to work on them. That allows them to use their own minds, which, we need that. My kids need that. We all need that. But and then to process, and then to try to think things through. And maybe plant some seeds of future thought or doubt, which is doubt sometimes is good because we need to be questioning our motives. And so hopefully that happens. But yeah, I really think there is always something to be learned for the preparation of them for the future and how to do that better, even when it comes to like doing chores around the house or how things work. Like with my older daughter, like her taxes, I am trying to give her little snippets of what doing taxes is, she's asked a few times too, which is cool, like about finances and about, gosh, she was asking not too long ago about her paycheck and, kudos to her. She like a couple years ago in this context, she started her own, she went down with me. She asked and she helped get it going, but she started her own Roth IRA for investments for retirement. And she was still in high school, I think. She was just finishing up high school when she started it. So, but she was working consistently and so started that and started planning for the future. So, it's kind of things like that. But there's always more in everything, in relationships and yeah. So I really think it's important to think about those things for our kids, for our family, and then for others that we know too. Handing stuff off. Yeah.
So I think Kip was very vulnerable here, and I think it's the reality for a lot of us, and I hope it is a lesson that we solidify today. I mean, this is so important. What is in the past is in the past. Mistakes we made, the failures we had, focusing on career. I was there too, focusing on career or focusing on our sorrows when we were unjustly treated. But now looking ahead and looking forward. So Kip has an opportunity now with a younger son, and I know you put a lot of time with your son. Darren still has a son at home. So Darren is talking about intentional time. It reminds me of what Chris always tells us about coherence is what will make the difference and not what we've always called time. What was that? Quality time, right? Quality time needs to be everything. So Kip.
Yeah. Well, a comment to quality family time. Right after last week's meeting, I posted that question because Keith and I redefined that, and we weren't even aware of the sociological definition of quality family time, or maybe its original origin. That was news to me. But when we were working on our mission, vision, values, and definitions, quality family time came up, and so we defined it as I wrote it. And so where there's any moment, any time that there's trust, any time with our kids or friends or family where there's trust, and we could extrapolate on that, on what the depth of the relationship with people are and what the impact is, just by delving into the word trust. If you have that time and trust, but I'll leave that for now. So that's a very real. So when it came out as this is a bad sociological thing, and I'm always evaluating, trying to keep or reject good or bad things. I was looking for some sincere responses or comments on that. And anyway, that's a comment to quality family time. But
So let me jump on that, Kip, if you don't mind, before
ahead.
Darren has to go here. The whole time we're talking about Chris, I'm translating for Chris this morning. There's one word that keeps popping into my mind. Honor. Is to raise our kids to honor. It is to lead in a ministry where those who follow you live by a code of honor. Is to lead your department in such a way that you create a culture of honor, so that when you are not present, the quality of the product stays the same, so that when you are absent, your son refers back to the relationship. And that's us and God the Father. We refer back to the relationship we have, and you say, I'm gonna honor Christ here. I'm gonna honor my wife and not look into this. I'm going to honor my friend and not badmouth him. Honor, honor, honor kept coming up, to create a culture of honor. And you're talking about trust, and it's an element of honor.
Was honor the main topic of last week? I listened to about 3 different pastors, and one of them was highlighting honor. So this really rings a bell. I'm going to have to go pull that message up in my notes, because that really rings a bell.
Darren, you're nodding there. What did you think?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure, like he's saying exactly what we said. But, you know, to me, honor is like, my nodding was like, honor is like integrity. It's like letting the Holy Spirit convict us, letting the Spirit teach us where we've gone wrong, you know, or where I just for me, it's becoming more like learning to listen to him on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis, and ask him questions, and then try to trust the leaning, the direction he may be sending me on, yeah. So yeah, I do think those go together: honor and trust, and integrity. So, but that's why I was nodding. I was making that connection for me. Yeah.
Kip.
Yeah. I'm looking for my notes on this, on honor, because it sounded as though honor. Okay. Still processing that a little bit.
See, I have.
Oh.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead and talk. I've got to finish my thinking out loud here a minute.
So I am leaving in about a month. So I'm going to be leaving for Brazil on the 13th of December. And as Chris was talking about, you know, you leave and your family needs to keep on going. I carry so much of the logistics of this house. So much, especially in the last 2 years since I've been home. Just to name a few things. I do the laundry. I do the dishes mostly. I do a lot of the cooking. I do the cleaning. I take care of the yard. I take care of the vehicles. I do a lot of the moving kids around. There's so many things that I do because I serve. This is how I love people, that you will be a shock when I'm not here. It's going to be chaos for about a few days. Now, Wendy is very methodic, and she's gonna do fine, but it will be a shock, especially for the kids. So the opportunity I have in the next month is to step away from a lot of my responsibilities and prepare my kids to be responsible and to run this household in my absence. So this in terms of practical and immediate response, this lesson this morning gives me an opportunity to today have a meeting with everybody in the Ava household and say, guys, let's start. Dad is gone today, because I'm going to be gone for 35 days. So in a very, very practical sense, I have the opportunity to start something, but then I need to extrapolate this through life and say, how do I, in light of what you shared this morning, Kip, in light of what Darren said this morning, how can I shift the culture of my family so that we understand that every decision that we make here, it is so that it is with the mindset of legacy, because that's what we do. Because if I want my kids to be the kind of adults that will live by the Spirit, not for the temporal things, but with an understanding of legacy, we know that I have to live myself and teach by example. And sometimes we don't have the support of our wives. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we do. Sometimes it's good if we do. Sometimes we don't. But we still need to do it.
I can affirm
getting
that.
ready to go?
Yeah, I mean, I can still listen, but I'm going to be doing some setup stuff.
Yeah.
Does it?
Affirm that.
Yeah, sometimes we got to do it on our own, but we need to do it. And hopefully wife will come along for the ride.
I can affirm that. And that's it. Yeah. Yeah, that's why you need a group of guys to stand with you while you're pursuing this. I think that was a big part of what was missing in my life, or in my early years, was having a group of guys to be with and march or walk with, because there's times that your wife's all in or your family's all in, but there's times that they're not. And having a group of guys with the same mindset, with the same desire for equipping and leading, can affirm one another and encourage one another. And yeah, I didn't have that in my early years.
Now, what an interesting concept. A church where the head leader has to step away, and it does not affect the dynamic of processes, an organization, any organization, because he has 100 ministers, 100 leaders, where 50 of them are capable of keeping the ship on course. I mean, what an amazing concept. I've never heard of such a thing, especially in terms of church in my culture. Because in my culture, in Brazil, we have spiritual leaders who are like popes. And I can think of several ministries like this. But this that I heard this morning, because I haven't congregated in Chris's church, but I know the leadership. I know his father-in-law. And what an amazing concept. How can we replicate that at home?
Yeah, I've lived it in business for years. Hadn't thought about that in home life. Equipping my kids for life, or for launching my kids into life, certainly. For having a continuity binder in my death, or in anybody's death, that we could go grab and deal with all the paperwork. Certainly. Continuity of ministry, continuity of my ministry in my absence. As a father, that's not really a concept that I have really thought through. Our mission, vision, value statement, that perhaps is the ministry, equipping my kids to know, find, and follow Jesus, or know and follow Jesus, and to continue loving people. Loving people as Christ loved us, or as God through Christ loved us. That would be the legacy, perhaps, that I would look to see in my kids. How they accept every person, how they view every person. How that would be perhaps a gauge. I could, if Paul had a gauge for himself, and he looked at his kids, and how do they accept the homeless? How do they view the homeless? How do they view people with a mask on? How do they do they see him? Do they see him as God sees us? Do they see him as Jesus saw us? Do they love them just as much as they would a family member? Would their heart break for them? That would be, I think that would be a gauge. I guess that's probably what I've tried to pass on with them.
It's interesting to think back on what we discussed this morning, and the fact that Paul can come out and say in the state that he's finished well. And again, like Chris highlighted, it is because he has markers that he can look back to and say, established, done. And those markers are people. It's not his bank account. It's not his properties. It's not his boat, his big truck. It's not his Roth IRA. It is people.
Yeah, I jokingly said that's who we can take to heaven, so collect as many as you can. You can't take money, and you can't take your Roth, or you can't take a big old dually Chevy, but people.
Yeah. He's finishing well because of people he established and are doing well themselves.
So my gauge for how well my kids are doing, or how well I led,
Mhm.
if I may, would be how well they love,
Mhm.
how well they accept, how well they forgive.
Mm.
Love, acceptance, forgiveness. And so
Yeah.
um,
We have, when our kids grow up, we have dreams for them, right? So when they're babies, we have dreams, and then as they grow up and we start seeing their talents and their skills and their gifts and their personality, we start seeing, oh, so and so could be an engineer, or so and so could be a nurse, or a social worker, or so and so could be a teacher. We dream dreams for our kids based on the skills that we see. And then as they grow up, and I am entering into that phase right now. Bella's 14, and I'm refining that vision. And then you realize that many of the dreams that you had for your kids, which means nothing, are not going to realize, or maybe are going to confirm. And then we go back to the whole concept of this group, that aljava or quiver, where you as the spiritual father and the father and the spiritual father, you are loading this child who is the arrow in your hands to be launched. It is our job to launch them. It is our job. If the comparison of a quiver as being our family and the children God has given us, talking about physical children, if where they are is because we either launched them or didn't, it's problematic, don't you think? We either launched them well or we didn't. Can we take that responsibility, because they also make choices, right?
yeah, that's been a struggle. How much responsibility to take, or how much guilt or condemnation to allow myself to be subjected to. Sometimes you got to discern it to see if some of it's what's the word, guilt, condemnation, or conviction.
Mm-hmm.
The Holy Spirit
Yeah.
convicts and the devil condemns.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps there's in some of the thoughts and some of the attacks, there's some conviction there, and then sometimes there's condemnation there. And how well, plus or minus, that I launched my first couple of children. How much do I own, and how much do I leave to them? I don't really have an answer. I do it prayerfully.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
mean,
know if I answered the question, but that's more just
well,
some comments.
you do, because like I shared several times before, sometimes I look at my 12-year-old now son, and I just don't know how to deal with him. I mean, we coming to this parenting thing having one reference, which is our Father, who many times didn't know how to do a better job, and that's the reference we have many times.
Mm-hmm.
And we're a Christian man, and we love, and we are doing our best, and hopefully we're not distracted enough with career and our own pursuits that we miss. But I don't have control over my 12-year-old son. I mean, he makes his choices.
Right.
And I think the honor factor, going back to the honor factor, is am I allowing him to suffer the consequences of his choices? Because I have the tendency to want to punish. And I think for the last maybe 4 months, I've been kind of removing myself from being the punisher to being the administrator of natural consequences for his choices.
Oh yeah, that's the message I was thinking about. Okay. Thank you.
That has been very helpful to me in my relationship with Elin.
Yeah. Come on, brain, work. Yep. I have a whole series of comments and things, but I have to get to them.
The administrator of natural consequences. And that kind of shifted the relationship to a better position. I think we can do that with adult children who depend on us, because it seems like they always depend on us, right? My brother depends on my parents. My sisters depend on my parents many times because they have them near, so they use them, right? They use the relationship and the benefits of a relationship with the parents.
Yeah.
And I think
Family, parenting.
and I think we can still adjust the course as parents concerned with releasing our children, because it seems like they always come back to the bowl. They kind of jump in the quiver again for one reason or another. And I think we will have other chances to redirect and guide. But maybe when you're dealing with adults, as you're dealing with people who work for you, that you don't own their lives. But I think in the same manner, we can, with our own integrity, as they watch our lives, redirect them with our example. Then you're not a teaching by being a lecturer, but by walking in love.
Yep.
Like you've done with your cousin, where instead of lecturing your cousin, you took your cousin in and you loved and you launched your cousin. That's what you did, isn't it?
Well, the one that I moved up from California.
Yeah.
I would say I loved my cousin. I don't know that I launched my cousin per se.
Well,
This is
wasn't your
certainly not-
cousin living with you and you
Oh.
provided that support for some time?
Yeah. Okay, I got it. If because if I was going to call it a launch, God certainly has some more sanctification to do with my cousin.
Well, I know, but you had the opportunity to help your cousin to kind of get back on her feet, right?
Yeah. Yeah, keep my cousin alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in many ways, you were kind of like helping steering that arrow.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Yep.
Would that be a correct perspective on the relationship?
I don't think it's incorrect. I hadn't thought of it in that term before, launching, but certainly I brought my cousin up, and then we set expectations, and my cousin exceeded expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeah, exceeded expectations, got a job, got busy, got a place.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, and whatever decisions my cousin made is my cousin gets to own that.
Yeah.
But my cousin was certainly faithful and reliable or diligent to meet the expectations. So, yeah, that's not an incorrect assessment. I just hadn't thought about it before.
Mm.
And then the spiritual part, the spiritual launch, like, oh, I wish there was a way I could. And God will use our time together and our continued relationship to,
Mhm.
and continues to use that to show and express love. And
Yeah. That is, for me, Kip, it's a good example of an adult that is being given a level of authority over another adult. Even if it was not declared, the fact that this adult came to you for help gives you a certain level of authority. And you were able to launch this adult in a very spiritual manner without religion being involved. You were able to help launch another adult. You planted a seed and you're seeing the fruit. So it's a very good example for me that I can use maybe without ever citing your name and say, here's an example of how you can build a legacy on the life of somebody who is a fully grown adult making its own choices, not walking with Christ, but coming to somebody who walks with Christ, who chooses to love instead of lecture. And here's the outcome. And hopefully you lead to a spiritual outcome at one point.
yeah, that's a great insight into that relationship. I was just complimenting Michelle this weekend and for thanking her for teaching me how to love.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know, without her I would have made the right choice to love my cousin that way.
Mm-hmm.
And with her guidance, that really helped, because it was really a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Making the right choice. So,
Kip, this is a testimony that at one point, when the time's right and the situation and the context is right, I would love for you to share with this group of guys. I mean, it is, that story is a challenge in so many levels. But it's an amazing example of unselfish love and sacrificial love. That is, the outcome is yet to be seen. The full fruit of this investment you made is yet to be seen. And sometimes it feels like it's not even significant. But it is. So, at one point, I would love for you to share with everyone here. So it's an amazing story.
I could do that. I guess I would I'd need some more assistance on how to really identify it. The best thing I can say was that I was loving. Mm-hmm. That I saw a need and I met a need. We were able to do it safely, as safe as possible. I mean, with all the uncertainties surrounding a cousin I hadn't met or been with, hadn't known for years, and then having a completely different lifestyle. And
Going through it.
I wouldn't think of it as a testimony. I would just think of it as a broken person trying to love another broken person.
Yeah.
But
it is. I mean, we are all there. This is I would say maybe a little more extreme than most of us will ever have a chance to experience. But it's a challenge that most of us will never have in life. We're going to have probably less challenging opportunities to love on people. So I commend you, and I really encourage you to keep that, open in your mind as a testimony of something that is for certain ongoing, because God is still working in that process.
Yeah, and God keeps nudging me in a couple different conversations with my cousin as well. A couple different pursuits with my cousin, or a pursuit with my cousin, and conversations. So this conversation's even affirming to that.
Yeah. Well, bro, shall we wrap this up?
Yeah.
It's been a good morning.
Yeah, it sure has.
Yeah, thank you, Kip, for hanging with me. Hopefully the guys will watch this and listen to this until the end, because it only got better.
Hey, do you guys have just a minute? Maybe I could, one of us, or I volunteer to pray, but maybe we could just pray to wrap it up real quick.
Yeah, do it, dude.
Okay. All right, Jesus. I know you were listening to all this, and you're here, but we just want to affirm that. We want to test it. We want to call your name on it, and just ask that you would speak into our lives about how we are intentional, both with words, but with actions. And, in my case, I really feel like listening to you, Spirit, and what you have for us in each moment.
Yes.
And then trusting confidently that you will direct our steps, our decisions, that you will direct our thoughts. And maybe it's rewire some brain chemistry. Maybe it's calm us down, and you will focus us and then help us to trust, or teach us to love in whatever that may be. And I just ask that you would do it, Lord. You would do that in your mighty name, and by your power, Jesus, by your blood. We call that for us in Jesus' name.
In Jesus'
Amen.
Yeah. Thank you, brothers.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Okay,
Yeah,
have a
thank
good
you.
week.
All right, blessings.
Blessings.
Blessings.